Okay, welcome. Thank you very much. My name is Tim Kenny from Tim Kenny Surveying, and this is kind of something I've been wanting to do for a kind of a little while, really. Um, those that know me, and if you don't know me, I do tend to do a lot of stuff on social media, mainly LinkedIn. Some people would argue perhaps too much on social media, but it's something that I do and I've done a lot, and I think has been useful for me both professionally and in terms of my business and everything else. Um, and it's actually something I want to encourage more surveyors to do. I think we as a profession need to make a big effort to be really visible. And so I've wanted to kind of do something to encourage that for a while. Um, but these things are always, hey, with anything on social media, one of the things we'll probably talk about is finding time to get stuff done on social media. Um, but the good news is it's not just going to be me talking today. Fortunately, because my knowledge is pretty much specialised to just LinkedIn. We've also got Daniel Knight, another surveyor. If you want to just introduce yourself, Dan.
Hi, my name is Daniel Knight. I am an ASOC RIC surveyor, graduated from Sava about 3 years ago now, I think. I set up my own firm, Homescan Surveyors, and for about a year and a bit, I've been doing social media. Probably started doing it properly about 6 months ago, and I'm having a blast doing it. So I just thought it'd be great to get more people to do it, but go through my experience and just see what the pros and cons are, and see if it's right for some of you guys as well.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, I say it's great to have you here. You're obviously at say relatively uh, early starting point in your career. I mean, I've now got myself to the point where I do tend to start offering my opinion with how long I've been in the profession, which means I've been in the profession quite a long time, as far as possibly too long. But it's really good that the first thing you said is that you're having a blast doing it. And I know obviously we were chatting briefly before this. Social media can be a difficult place. And I think we kind of are probably good to acknowledge that straight up. Um, do you want to tell me perhaps what some of the challenges you faced with it are?
Yeah, but I would like to touch on the fact that I am so new because that is helpful from a
Mm,
content standpoint because I'm coming to the table as a student as much as a professional,
mm,
where I'm saying things to my best of my knowledge, and but I'm not set in any camp. Like, prove me wrong. If you prove me wrong, I'll hear you. I'll change my views.
mm,
I want to be correct because that's the correct opinion, not just
mm,
because this is what I think, which can happen sometimes where
mm,
you want to be correct more than you want the truth to be told.
mm,
So being new, I haven't entrenched myself in any camp, and I can kind of just say, well, there are a lot more knowledgeable surveyors out there. I hopefully this year want to do more long form content with those surveyors to learn from them. But I want to be that bridge, not necessarily the final say.
mm,
So just get people thinking more so than um, this is exactly what things are like.
mm,
And I've done videos before where I've gotten things wrong and I've removed them or conjure or said or posted a new one saying, "Hey, I was wrong about that." As I've learned and grown as a surveyor, and I'll continue. As you and I both know, you speak to surveyors been doing it for like 30 years. They still say they're learning new things. Um, but challenges right out the gate, the number one thing is being on camera.
mm,
Um, Everyone has some reservation when it comes to that, but it's a like everything with social media, it's a muscle,
mm,
it's a skill, and once you're used to it, you're used to it. So it's like I don't think about it at all anymore. Before I used to make a video, my first few videos were very like low energy because I was shy and I was nervous and I wasn't sure I was going to be perceived. And then I remember I think my mom was watching one of my videos in the living room and I heard my own voice and that like made me cringe. I'm like, oh no,
Oh, it's horrible. Apparently,
that
it's because
feeling.
you don't, when you hear your voice in your own head, there's an echo that goes with
Yeah.
it, whereas you don't hear that when you're kind of hearing it recorded. I think to touch on that point about kind of talking on camera, I first started doing some bits and pieces like this back. In fact, it was during lockdown when no one else had anything better to do, and I think I was probably the exact opposite. Mine were talking 100 miles an hour when I've still I know I still talk quickly. I do anyway, but to try and slow myself down, so I had the
Yeah.
opposite problem of
I
real
have
kind
that
of
as well. That
hammering a
kicks in as
hundred
well.
words a minute at people, which was a yeah. And I think yeah, it is it's getting that. comfortable with being seen and camera in front of you, and often when you're recording you're seeing yourself and not talking to another human being is a slightly bizarre experience to get used to doing. So I think that I can see
Yeah.
why that
I
is
think a big part
attractive.
of that as well is like understanding that it's not a one take job.
Mm,
It is like it's being in a movie compared to acting on stage. It's like you don't have to get it perfect the first
no.
time. If you stumble, if you say something wrong, you delete it, you start again.
Yeah.
And I think getting that habit of, which is, I guess, our first tip,
Mm,
is if you get used to just going, okay, I want to say this. I said it, listen back. I don't really like that. Change this, change that.
mm.
Oh, I fumbled, or like the amount of times I will call myself and then go, "La, la, la," like I can't speak. Like that happens. It like it's not a big deal.
No.
Just delete it and start again. And you
Yeah.
can only if you're unhappy with the final product, you can just not post it.
Mm,
And
mm.
I've posted things that maybe I thought were funny, or maybe I thought was clever, and it didn't get received the right way. And then I'm like reading the first few comments. I'm like, actually, I don't really know if I want this up there, and then I'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
Um, and you live and learn. And it's
Yeah.
a the annoying thing about social media as a skill is you have to fail in public. You can't you can learn to play the guitar in the private of your own home,
Mm.
and no one will know you're doing it. But to get that feedback to improve on social media, you have to fail in public.
Yeah.
And then the feedback is often from your peers. I've had people like when I started posting on LinkedIn, I've had people message me going, "What was the point of this post?" And then I'm
Mm.
like, fair point. Like, there's nothing like, why'd I post that? And it's
Yeah.
like, that's just feedback.
Yeah.
And there's constructive feedback. And I think a lot of this has to do with just your own personality and whether you can
Mm.
take feedback.
Mm.
Um, but if it's constructive, like there's people that will just tear you down and they know what to do with themselves.
Mm.
But if it's constructive feedback, take it. It's like you're getting feedbacks in all different types of forms, whether it's your view, how many views you get, how many likes you get, your comments you get, and then you just have to kind of take that information and then progress.
Mm.
And then with that, like you will get, if you do get criticism from peers, like that as well comes from what is that angle they are coming from.
Yeah.
If it is like something I struggle with as I become more knowledgeable, is people saying things, trying to help, but being incorrect. And
All right.
then
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, you're being really nice about this, but then I have to somehow figure out how to tell you that this isn't correct in a
Yeah.
polite way
My,
without
my,
trying
my
to.
My favorite one is if you post technical content about a particular property that you've been to, you've inspected it, you've physically been at that property and you've looked at it in a lot more depth than just the one or two pictures you put on the screen. Someone will come in and they'll tell you that you're wrong or tell you that it's something else based on just that photograph.
Yeah,
And you think, well, I've been there, I've seen it, and I would be reluctant to offer an opinion based on one photograph,
yeah.
and yet you get people, and so it is a difficult thing. But then, as you said, I think you can delete it, you can remove it, you get feedback, and I think certainly one of the things that I've benefited most from social media and the way I use it is that I've learned a lot from it, both in terms of terms of kind of say how to present, how to put that content outward, but also even the technical side of it. And sometimes that learning can be difficult when when certain people present things or give you that feedback in a slightly difficult way. But actually, you can
Yeah,
still take something from that, and you can
yeah.
learn that, and you can build that into how you
Because even if
operate.
you're even like I've had a lot of things just get misconstrued, or
Mm,
I didn't present them perfectly to where they couldn't be.
mm.
Um, and then someone might reply and be like, "Yeah, but that's not what I was saying." And it's like you have a comprehension problem here. This isn't a me thing, and sometimes it is, but but like there's no point getting
Mm.
defensive.
No.
It is just take it and go, cool,
Mm,
that's great. But it's got to be like water for ducks back most of the
mm,
time.
mm.
Um,
And
and
I think
that's
of
another thing that when it comes to whether people want to make content or not, that is
mm,
something they're gonna have to think about.
mm,
Because if they are very receptive to criticism and it does really bother them,
mm,
then that's the other like I feel like a lot of it is personal kind of brand
mm,
of I feel like anyone who knows me just knows that I'm coming into it with the best of intentions.
mm,
All I want is to solve the problem the best way possible,
mm,
as often as possible. I'm not trying to scam anyone. I'm not trying to make more, just stuff my pockets with money.
mm,
Like that is my goal. And then I think if people see that, I hope
mm.
that they go, okay, well, even if he's wrong, I know he's here for the right reasons. So they can at
That's
least
yeah.
take the patience with me.
And I think that I think is a really another important point of it is that particularly depending on how you choose to use social media, your business effectively is just yourself. So you're a
Yeah,
small
just me.
small
Yeah.
trader. But yeah, I'm the same thing. So when I'm presenting myself, I'm presenting the business. They are one and the same thing. I don't try and present this polished corporate corporate image. In
Yeah.
fact, I recorded a video earlier on today about survey levels that I'll put out at some point. And it's the same background I have now, but wearing just the same jumper I had on now. And one of the things in that, I talk about picking the surveyor more than you pick the level. And actually,
Mm.
I talk about me and how I present and look, how I work is fairly informal, accessible. It's not this kind of, I'm not wearing my branded gilet and I don't even have a branded gilet. I'm not trying to I'm not standing in front of a fancy house with a big setup. It's just me talking to the person in the same way that I would talk to my client if they're talking to me,
Yeah.
on post survey or before the survey. And I think that's the way I've always approached everything I've done on social media and even written stuff and stuff I do on LinkedIn. It's just me expressing myself,
Yeah.
and you either like that or you don't. If you either want to work with me or you don't. And I think it's quite interesting that there's two sides to kind of, I think, social media for a professional,
Yeah.
and that is the kind of, perhaps more the way I use my social media is for interaction with fellow professionals and discussing a lot of kind of that side of it. I don't tend to focus much on my social media and how I relate to clients. And it's not about selling surveys for me. I use LinkedIn in very differently than that. But actually, you know what? It's the same thing in a sense that they either my clients want to buy from me, and I might as well show them who I am, and surveyors want to work with me, or they don't, and I might as well show them who I am. That for me is in. I think also for me that's always taken a bit of the work out of it. I haven't got to think about being somebody different. I haven't got to think about saying something in a different way. I say things in the way that I'm going to say it to my client, the way that I might write it in a report. They're all the same thing from my point of view.
That's a massive point because if you make enough content, you can't hide it. Like
Mm,
that's one reason why people like these long form podcasts. Is
mm,
because you can't hide who you are for 3+ hours.
mm,
And the same thing happens with social media. As much as I would like to be super charismatic and make people laugh every 3 seconds, if I
yeah,
can't do that, I can't do that. I
mm,
am always going to result to being myself, especially on social media. So you have to be comfortable doing that.
mm,
But at the same time, there's been a big push, I think, overall that I've noticed, just my own opinion, for authenticity lately,
mm,
especially on social media, where you will find people with 3 million TikTok followers, and all they do is record videos of themselves speaking direct to their phone, like a FaceTime call,
mm,
talking about their life, talking about story, whatever it might be. It's engaging, it's entertaining, it's informative, whatever it might be. But that's all that is. That's all they
mm,
are. It's not
mm,
some high production thing like that. So straight off the bat, you can throw out the argument of, oh, well, I don't have the money to get a studio and all these things. Like you don't need that. Um, and I've had to wrestle with that as well, where it's like, well, do I need a professional camera? Do I need all these, especially as I'm starting to look to make long form content?
yeah.
Like I've built this thing behind me just because I felt like I need
It, it,
something.
it, I'd say it
All my
looks good.
videos are green
I, I'm
screen. So
I'm
it's like, I
slightly
got to
jealous of
figure
it.
it out.
I wish I had the impetus to kind of do something myself. I like what
So
I get.
I've like I like and I'm happy with it
Yeah,
now,
it looks nice.
but I haven't bought any fancy cameras or
Mm,
fancy lighting or anything.
no.
And I'm gonna make TikToks after this, and it's just
Mm,
gonna be me with a green screen filter talking about something.
yeah.
Um, and on top of that, it's especially with the short form content, it is like buying a lottery ticket. Like
Mm,
I thought I was doing well, posting like 2 TikToks a week a year ago. Then I started doing one a day, and I was
mm,
like, oh, like this is so much better and so much more.
mm, mm,
And then and now I'm trying to do two or more a day because I saw people saying that they were doing three, like, can't remember her name, but she does three a day. And I was like, wow. And I was like, I can do one proper, like, thought out one
mm,
and one just off the top of my head, what am I thinking kind of
yeah.
thing. And you never know which one takes off. I've done ones where I'm like, I'm exhausted. I don't want to do a video today, but I'm like, oh, you promised yourself you do one a day. And then I posted it and it was like my third best video. And I was
Mm,
like, okay. And so much depends on what the market's like, what people are looking at,
Yeah.
what else is going on in the world. If a war breaks out, you're probably not going to get a lot of good views, a lot of many views, because everyone's going to be watching that stuff. And
Yeah.
algorithms will be feeding them that.
Yeah.
So, um, if
Yeah.
any
I think
dictators get kidnapped again anytime soon, you're probably not going to get
well, yeah, exactly. That can kill everything. I think you make a really good point. Is you never know what's going to hit. And let's say, but like I've spent ages. I particularly say with my LinkedIn stuff, I've written posts I'm really really happy with. I've kind of put a lot of effort into them. I've bunged them out. At the same time, same format as I would usually use. Three people have liked it, and it just vanishes without a trace. So I knock something out in 30 seconds, and it's getting really good response. I've no idea how. One of my most popular ever LinkedIn posts. In fact, I've had two that went really well. One was a picture of a house, and I just annotated where a gutter leak was, and the text was just talking about annotate your pictures; it makes them more useful. I got
yeah,
like 500 likes or something stupid. And another one was just a picture of two houses where someone had basically kind of paved the driveway seamlessly between the two houses. They had the same paving either side, they just carried it on. So it was an unclear boundary. And I just, same thing, it was just a line saying, look, this is how I'm going to divide that up. And I was explaining a little bit about that. And again, went crazy. I've no idea. And that's like, okay, it's probably to me the most boring thing
but
I put out there.
LinkedIn's
But
difficult as well because LinkedIn, even if you do a really good one, it has a relatively short lifespan.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Um, Video content, you're building a library. So people go
Mm,
like, oh, it's not worth the investment. It's like, but you're building a library of things. Like I
mm,
did a video a while ago that has just continued to tick.
mm,
Like every day I'll get one or two likes on it.
mm,
It was about asbestos Artex ceilings. All
mm.
they said was, here's how to tell if there's asbestos or here's how to tell if there's potentially asbestos in the ceiling, showed
Yeah.
Artex ceiling, blah, blah, blah. It's got like 200,000 plus views over a year and a bit, probably.
Mm.
It was one of the earliest videos I did.
Yeah.
But it just continues to go because people are searching asbestos. And
Mm,
then I thought to myself, like people go to me like, oh, why are you posting on TikTok? People that can buy a house aren't on TikTok.
mm,
And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. Like I should probably be doing on Instagram. And I started pushing more to Instagram
mm,
and then Facebook as well.
mm.
But something that's really interesting is if it's a short form video, Google doesn't differentiate. They're trying to
Yeah.
solve someone's problem. So if you've spoken about asbestos and you've hashtagged asbestos and someone Googles, do I have asbestos? And they go to videos and your video's there,
Mm,
that's a big deal. And
mm,
like for me, so like the reason I started doing content, it's not because I want to be famous or anything. It's just because I started the company and I was like, all right, I don't have a very big ad budget. I did probably what everyone tries to do is drive around to a bunch of agents and gift of the gab them, but they weren't really having it considering I was a freshly graduated associate surveyor. And I thought, okay, well, I can do paid ads. I've tried speaking to people, and I was like, social media is free. What else am I doing? So then
mm,
I started doing that, and I got a bit of work from it. And then I
mm,
just took that in stride and tried to do more and more.
mm,
And I also looked around and no one else was doing it. It's
mm.
really strange how on LinkedIn, lots of very active people, but no one really, like very few people speaking to clients
Yeah.
or just to the public. And there's arguments against that. Why would you want to do that? For instance, I get inquiries from like Manchester. It's like, I can't help you. So I'm based in North London. So it's like,
Yeah.
I can't help you really.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll pass them on to someone who is based in Manchester.
Mm,
And hopefully just someone that I know does a decent job. So at least someone's getting taken care of.
yeah.
So it is like you're casting a very wide net.
Yeah.
Um, but you do get work from it and it can come in. And I found that the people that I get on social media are the best clients you could ask for
Mm,
because they're trying to do homework on why they need a survey. They're taking the effort to go, they're not just trying to get the cheapest thing possible. So they're probably going
mm.
to pay a decent fee. And by the time they've watched your videos and given you a call, you're friends.
Yeah.
They know about you, they know who you are, they know what you stand for, and you can probably have an hour phone conversation with them right there and then just going over this house with them
Yeah.
because and they know what they want from you, they know what you want to give them. So like I've done videos from like, look, I don't want to just give you a report, I want to talk to you, and then
Mm,
people call me knowing that.
mm.
Um, and then if you can do that, then you can charge more and all these fun
Yeah.
things.
Because I
But
think one of the things obviously we as surveyors have to be conscious of is setting the expectation right. And the problem, so that complaints, a lot of complaints come when a client's expectation is not met. Right? So obviously, what you can do with social media is create that expectation first, get that expectation set right, and obviously you have to deliver on that. But you are kind of getting ahead of the game, and I think you are right in terms of how it kind of feeds into everything. I mean, the reason I have a YouTube channel, which this will be on, is because I learned that, well, you know what, Google it gives additional credit to websites that are linked to a Google site. And if you're referencing your website within Google, within YouTube, which is owned by Google, it affects your SEO. Obviously, that is changing with AI and how AI is interpreting stuff. But again, it is all reading that information and taking stuff from that social media content adds into the whole process. And as you said, if someone's it's not just the people who are on TikTok, who are on LinkedIn that see that stuff. Those posts are publicly available for everybody to see. If you Google my name or you Google Tim Kenny Surveying, you see stuff from
Yeah.
LinkedIn. You see, but not just that. You see the YouTube stuff. You see the articles and bits and pieces I've written for other things, and you see the blog posts, and that is all adds into that. The kind of the social proof, the demonstration that this person knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And as you say, they're the client who has done the homework. They've looked through the things. They have a good understanding of what to expect from a
But as you
survey
said,
audience.
that's exactly what you should be doing with content is trying to show who you are and why
Mm,
they should work with you.
mm,
What I see a lot of people doing is thinking that social media is just paid ads, but for free,
yeah.
which isn't going to help at all. You can post a million photos of talking about your business and how successful you are, and they just won't care. It's like you
Yeah.
have to provide some kind of value, whether that's entertainment or education,
Mm,
that's up to you. A lot of people opt for this might not be very educational, but it's going to look nice. Or I'm going to show you a pretty house. And a lot of estate agents get a lot of views for
yeah.
exactly that. It's like you're not going to learn anything.
People love to
You're
look
going
at
to get
pretty
a tour.
houses, don't they?
Yeah.
That's a yeah. And I
And you're
think
going to get a tour. So
yeah.
yeah.
But I think also, one of the things you mentioned, you obviously did a video on Artex ceilings, and especially as a surveyors, we'll think, well, that's quite a basic thing. Who's gonna think about that? But actually, there's this element of, well, what you think is basic to you may be something actually that somebody else didn't know. And
Yeah.
and that I think applies to clients and also applies to surveyors. We as surveyors perhaps are reluctant to comment on a technical thing because we think that's too basic. But actually, there may be somebody else who hasn't kind of thought about something in that way, and you can see that. And people get and as I've done it myself. I've learned a lot from other people's posts. If they're just sharing stuff, and they go, actually, oh God, I probably should have known that.
Also, like I
Because
don't,
we all have gaps in our
yeah.
knowledge. Yeah.
Things I don't post my videos on LinkedIn mainly
Mm.
because there is nothing any competent surveyor is going to watch on my videos and go, oh, I didn't know that. It's
You,
like
you,
they're
you
gonna
can,
know.
don't be so sure.
A
But
vast majority. It's very
yeah.
like that's the thing. My goal is to speak to lay people, and I
Yeah.
want and it's safe to do that because it is such cemented ground on this is this. More so than if you get super technical, which might perform really well on LinkedIn. And like
Mm.
there's some people that post technical things on LinkedIn that I eat up, and I love
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
Um, but if you posted I don't know, the difference between different types of wood boring beetles
Mm.
on TikTok, you're not getting much engagement
No.
because like, the layperson probably doesn't care too much
No.
about that. But if you said the most likely things in your house that could kill you, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
so
that
yeah,
makes the really good point is that you're finding the right content for the right channel. Someone once described it to me as like, you know, BBC shows different stuff to ITV. They're not
yeah,
trying to show the same thing. And you don't just do one bit of content and bang it out on all of the same channels because they're not the same place. Say LinkedIn, I see quite a few surveyors and firms that, as I say, put out the kind of the standard advert on LinkedIn. I think, well, does that really get a good response? Probably, I don't know whether it does. I think you can use LinkedIn to sell to surveys if you select your audience very carefully. If you were to go through and you were to make connections with only people within your geographical area, and you can do things like that if that's what you want to do. But just bunging out your basic advert on
yeah,
LinkedIn, no one's interacting with that. No one really, unless you're like me and spend far too much time on it, is ever gonna see it.
yeah.
It'll just disappear on the stock because of the way the
Exactly. But I
algorithm
think
works.
as well with that, like I said, like things in house that could kill you, like there is a massive temptation to be inflammatory
Mm,
because that's what gets clicks. And I did it by accident once, I think, when I was like, oh, this has been received like or like if you get people arguing in the comments, that is just a number one, like that'll go through the roof now because the algorithm will think that people are engaging a lot with it.
I promise I never deliberately put anything out that someone might argue with. Honestly, I.
There's a lot of temptation. Um, and I think if you like, but that I think that's one way to like kill your brand publicly is if you're constantly fear mongering.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to position my brand as like mainly, which I get from just speaking to a lot of like more experienced surveyors, is things are rarely as bad as you might initially think. Um, and rectifying these issues, although they might seem drastic,
Mm,
they might be straightforward or they
mm,
might be relatively cost effective. Not everything's going to cost you tens of thousands of pounds. Um, and I'm hopefully trying to push myself to be more of that. Yes, some things are going to cost you tens of thousands of pounds and you're going to have to deal with
mm,
them, but let's not freak out right away.
mm,
That's the kind of long-term branding I want to take.
mm.
But as well with that, I'm young. So like when I'm thinking about my professional career, I'm thinking what can I do now that's going to have a compounding effect in the future
Mm,
that will put me in a great position?
mm.
If I was in my late 60s looking at retirement, I don't know if I'd be looking at social media.
No, I
But
agree
I'm
with you.
looking at social media now saying in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if I
Mm,
do this consistently, what kind of presence could I build for myself?
mm.
And what kind of like I might never have to like people might be booking me out like crazy. I would never even have to think about advertising. That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the kind of hopeful thinking I'm taking,
Mm,
um, optimistic thinking of just like the compounding effect of all these videos and reaching out to people. And on top of that, no one knows you exist.
mm.
If it was like that's another thing when it comes back to people getting like self-conscious, is no one's thinking about you, they're thinking about
No.
themselves.
Yeah.
If you post something silly and people see it and they comment you and they correct you and you're embarrassed for a day, they've already forgotten about it tomorrow. They're not thinking about you.
Yeah.
So if it was as easy as I posted a video and everyone who saw my face remembered me, I would be getting stopped in the street already
Yeah.
because people would have been like, I know you. It's like, no, you like how many faces
People
have you
have their
seen
own
on
lives,
TikTok?
their own problems. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like how many videos have you seen on TikTok and Instagram that you'll never think about again?
Mm.
Um, so if you make a mistake, no one cares.
No.
The only reason people might care is if you're doing damage to the profession.
Mm.
So if you are saying things that are straight, like completely incorrect, or you're
Mm.
doing surveys on properties that are out of your depth, or whatever that might be, where it's like, hold on, that's just straight up lie. Because then now because as a surveyor and as a member of the RICS, you are a representation of them online.
Yeah, and we have to acknowledge that there is the standards in place. We have
Yeah.
social media standards, and we have to make sure we are following it. To be honest with you, those standards, most of us as decently competent human beings should be able to follow those standards.
Yeah.
Realistically, we're not, within a professional context, but it is right that they're in place, and we should be trying to represent the best profession. And I think, as I said at the beginning, one of the reasons I want more surveyors out there doing social media, and in a way, that's a negative probably from your point of view, my point of view. If you want to stand out, you want less surveyors doing it. But actually, me as someone who cares about the profession as a whole, and the appearance or the kind of the perception of the profession as a whole, I think it is so vital that we, as a profession, are out there saying, look, this is what we do. And particularly with the kind of the niche of the profession that is residential surveys. I always think we're in a slightly unusual position in that we're, in a sense, a small chunk of the surveying profession. We have of the 140,000 RICS members, only maximum 4,000 maybe
Mm.
are residential surveyors. But we're the ones most likely to end up in the Daily Telegraph if something goes wrong, right? You
Yep.
don't see a newspaper article about a commercial lease extension gone wrong. You don't. I mean, no, that's important. There's a lot of money at stake of that, and I'm not saying they're not important. And anybody who does commercial lease extension, I'm not trying to put you down, but the public don't care about that.
And we're the most likely person, most likely member of the RICS that the public is just going to interact with,
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
So their entire perception of the RICS could be reliant on those 4,000 people. Um,
Yeah, and so this is why we have to be saying, look, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is why we do it. This is what's good about it. This is what's bad about it. And the other side of that is the kind of the keeping people in the profession, encouraging people into the profession, and being out and using it. And I think well, it's great speaking to you as somebody who is doesn't fit in some ways the typical perception of a surveyor. We know what that might be from a certain point of view in terms of the age profile and everything else that goes around it. And actually, well, actually, there is increasingly more diversity within our profession. And I'm saying that as two white men saying this, but it is true. And
Yeah.
we're still a lot of work to go. And I'm not going to pretend we're doing amazingly well, but I think it is good and important that we have a diversity of voices, and that
Yeah.
should be everybody from those who are just starting, all the way through to those who are coming towards the end of their career. So I think it's
That's the thing as well. So with like younger surveyors as well, don't be afraid of speaking, but coming from that, I'm very aware of where I'm at in my career. I'm
mm,
not trying to be, I'm not trying to tell someone like a structural engineer with 30 years experience that they're wrong. It's like,
mm,
be like, no, tell me why I'm wrong. And then only if you cannot convince me why I'm wrong, will I say, okay, well, let's talk about that. But I just want to talk about like other surveyors making more content. I very much believe that like a rising tide raises all ships kind of
mm,
situation where, for instance, like if I send out a quote and I get beaten on the quote, if that person charged more than me and won the quote, I'm happy about it because you're raising the prices
yeah,
overall, kind of thing. It's like I'm only getting annoyed if you 50% undercut me, and
mm,
then that's why they went with you.
mm,
But if everyone's charging more, everyone's making more. And that's how I feel like if you grow a massive following on Instagram or TikTok, whatever it might be,
mm,
I'd want to make videos with you. Just because someone's watching your videos doesn't mean they're not watching mine.
mm,
Um, Now, if I heavily entrench myself in a certain mentality, like become like a conservation purist, like no one can talk to me about anything, um, and if it isn't Lyme, I don't want to talk to you about it kind of deal, then you might develop enemies.
mm,
And or if you are saying that conservation is just a load of hogwash,
mm,
and who cares if you knock down a 400-year-old house, then
mm,
you're going to make enemies as well.
yeah,
But as long as you're coming to every kind of group being like, I'm here to learn, I'm here to do what's best for people and their
mm.
houses, and then I don't see why you would have any issues.
No, yeah, and I think it's as you said that a certain surveyor came to mind in relation to
Uh,
that. Not to knocking down conservation houses, perhaps almost
it
the opposite.
wasn't
But you
intentional.
probably know there's a yeah who has certain opinions and shares those opinions, which fortunately, but I have a very small list of people that I have blocked on various social medias, and he fits into that. But I think that's perhaps also another point is that you can to an extent control that interaction. Obviously, where you're okay, chucking stuff out to the public, it's a kind of a different world to where you're engaging and interacting with surveyors. And I think, and I want to kind of maybe talk about this from the point of view of maybe even employed surveyors. We're coming at this from a business point of view, trying to kind of, put our work out there for various commercial reasons. But I think also there's a lot of scope for younger surveyors at early stages in their career to develop their own individual brand, because obviously they're going to want to develop their career. Who knows where their careers are going to go, and hopefully they'll have long, really happy, successful ones. Part of that is putting out what you know. So if I was a young surveyor starting now, I would probably aim to post things like, well, what I learnt today. I
Exactly.
learnt this today. This is what I found out. This is the new thing that I've learnt, and be saying, look, this is how I'm building my skills. You're not trying to teach anybody. You may be posting about stuff that other surveyors already know, but actually you're showing, look, this is how I'm developing myself. And of
Well,
course,
that's something I've thought about a lot with content because I've I've got a big love for heritage and conservation, and I've been looking at different courses to specialize and things like that. But then I thought, why can't I hopefully build a bit of a following, reach out to people that are tradespeople or conservation heritage builders and say, let me do something with you, let me do something with you, or woodwork, whatever it might be, and I can learn a lot. And then in a few years, when people go, well, what qualifications do you have? I would have a library of YouTube videos going, this is me with this person, this is me with this person.
yeah,
Like that is as much, if not better, than saying, oh, well, I read it in a book, or
yeah.
oh, well, like you have to trust this piece of paper that I
Mm.
got 15 years ago that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really interesting point because the way I perceive things. So the talking about your RICS membership and these memberships of professional bodies, they were a really and they still have value, and I'm not in any way suggesting that they don't, but I acknowledge that their value has perhaps changed over the years. So it used to be that okay, you as a layperson approaching a professional, there's no way you could have known whether they're competent. You had to rely on the paperwork and an external organisation to say that person's competent. And there's still scope for that, and I'm saying that still has it certainly has its place. But as you say, there is also this massive element of evidence. You know, that person say can watch your video and say, "Oh, this person's talking about this area. I can see they have a competence in this area because they say they produced a video talking about that particular defect." You
Hmm.
can physically demonstrate that that competence is there. It is that effective social proof, and I think more so than something like reviews, for example. You know, reviews are great, and you know it's always nice to have the positive reviews, and people do read them. But if people can actually say get into what you're saying and see actually, you know what, he's demonstrating to me this competence, and
And
also
that's
it gives them.
is they
Sorry,
might think because like you said with reviews is like if someone's writing a review, that's mostly speaks to their interaction with you, whether that speaks to whether you got it correct. The only a real other professional will be able to tell you that.
yeah,
So it mainly speaks to their experience with you. But posting content, like as we've seen people that aren't very competent that still do the work,
mm,
um, if you are posting content about a topic, you at least believe you're competent because you're putting it out there
yeah,
for everyone, including other professionals, to
mm,
critique. So and then that coupled with the outset of, well, I'm doing it with the best of intentions to learn and be and get it
mm,
correct. And you will get things you get wrong. In the same
mm,
way, like you will get like complaints eventually,
mm,
but you grow with them.
mm,
Um, then absolutely, that's the hundred that it's completely doable. But
yeah,
I do want to talk a bit more about the cons of social media because it sounds like we're hyping it up.
yeah,
Um,
no,
so it's I kind of say like social media, like I started doing social media because it's free,
mm,
but in the same it's like in the same way like running is free. It doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. It doesn't mean
yeah,
you're going to enjoy it.
no,
Um, just because it's good for you or it might help you, it might not be worth the cost.
mm,
If like let's say you're trying to get your cardio in, running might not be the thing to do. You might want to pay to go play pickleball or tennis
mm,
to get your cardio in. You don't have to run. Um, I love doing this. If
mm.
I could do this all the time and not have to do surveys, I probably would.
Fair enough.
It is. I have to go do surveys. I'm like,
Yeah.
because to me, it clicked for me when it was a if I do a survey and I teach someone about a problem, then I've helped that one person.
Mm,
But if I can make a video about something, then I've helped a lot of people.
mm,
And if I can compound that, then I can help like I can have the biggest impact possible through doing it that way. And
yeah,
that clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, well, then that's the obvious choice.
yeah,
So I really enjoy doing it. I like the feedback. I like interacting with people. I like meeting people that I would not have met
mm,
otherwise. Um, which is amazing. Like getting to talk to people that I was just
mm.
like, you live up north, I live down here. We would not have met
Well,
or any
we
interaction.
wouldn't be speaking now if you
Yeah,
hadn't.
exactly.
We're having a discussion
So
or
yeah.
conversation with, and
So
that I think
like
is yeah, it's a massive part
and
of
as
it.
a solo person working
Mm,
alone, like the thought of not doing social media and then just sitting around, just doing my surveys on my own every day, not really reaching out to people, talking to anyone,
mm.
that wouldn't be great. I would not be loving life if that was the case.
No, I
But
can see that.
I really enjoy doing it. So that makes a massive difference. But it is hard. It is a consistency issue. It's like going to the gym. It is a
Mm.
consistency issue. It is a learning from your mistakes issue. It is like accepting the fact that your first few videos are going to do terribly. Um, it is not getting tempted to try and pay to promote your
Mm.
content because if these platforms find out that you will pay to get more views, they will not give you any organically ever again because they're
Oh,
like, oh, well, how else do we
yeah.
get them to pay?
Mm.
Um, so like I've seen a few people they'll get like 200 views for like 20 videos. And if that's the case, maybe start a new account,
Mm.
maybe rethink how you're doing things.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, rethink how you're doing things because something isn't connecting. Because a lot of these platforms, what they'll do, they'll show you to 200, 300 people, and they rely on the engagement from them
Mm.
to whether they promote it further.
Mm.
So if people aren't engaging, then you've missed the point somewhere.
Yeah.
And annoyingly, a lot of it is just psychology. A lot of it is how quickly are you getting this person's attention? A lot
Mm.
of it is are you starting your video with here's what you're going to find out by the end of this video because and see if that interests them.
Mm.
Because if you start off going, well, hi, my name's Daniel Knight, they've scrolled. And like it's funny because you can look at your analytics and it'll be like people stopped watching your video 3 seconds into your video or 2 seconds into your video. And that shows how quickly like there's a massive game to it. But
That explains why I don't use TikTok. I'd be very bad at
yeah,
that.
it
That
would
is
like
not.
it's difficult,
Yeah.
but it's yeah, it's knowing your audience.
Mm,
There is, despite what people think, a reasonable like following on
mm,
a reasonable age difference on TikTok. People are still older people on
mm.
TikTok. Um,
I saw there now TikTok advertising, and I saw that advertising was specifically aimed at a very older demographic. I do think they have decided to
yeah, what's just
up
so
their
big now, I
demographic. I
think
think.
that there's a lot more people on it,
Mm,
but it's like you can see the age of people that interact with your
mm,
things, but as well they have assistants to help show you what's trending and
mm,
what's in your niche or whatever it might be. And it also sets expectations because I've never had a million view video. It's
mm,
probably not going to happen
mm.
anytime soon. If I do get in a million view video, it's going to be because it's going to be something super vague that can somehow apply to a ton of people.
Yeah.
Um, but anything that I would find interesting or anything that I would say is necessarily brand building, which we'll get onto like the different types of viewers in a second. But like if I see like, okay, well, people are talking about fires, but there's a you like your maximum potential is 100,000 views.
Mm,
If you get 20,000 views, you're like, yeah, that's good going. But then if you scroll through other people's content, you're like, oh my God, this person got 6 million views. I only got 20,000. That's easy to go, oh, well, that was terrible.
I think to kind of come back to the cons, I think as you say, it's accepting an element of failure and try again.
Yeah,
It isn't. You have to kind of say, look, it's going to take that time and that repetition and that effort to kind of
yeah.
build that process. And I
So
think that.
it's basic, it is free cash wise, but it's a
Mm,
massive time suck. So for
that's.
people that are like if you're a solo guy, sure, that might be something you can do. But if you're running a business that you
Mm,
employ people, that
mm,
might not be something you can kind of entertain, especially if it's just yourself. You might be saying, okay, well, who's the most charismatic person on my team? Do you want to
mm,
make content and
mm.
see how we do? But you got to be prepared to give them years to grow an audience. It's not going to
Yeah.
be well, why didn't this video get a million views?
Mm,
But back to the views issue is you can't think of every viewer as the same. Um, like if you post a video of rolling jars down the stairs and they splatter everywhere, you're gonna get millions of views because a lot of that's gonna range to everyone in the world. It's gonna go, oh, pretty or interesting. But if you're making something very specific to England or Great Britain
mm,
and or an area even, and then it's very specific type of property, different type of person, it's gonna go down.
mm,
But the value of those viewers could be high. In the same way that like luxury brands, when they're looking at who to invest in, they don't necessarily look at who's got like you could be a comedian with 6 million followers. How many of those people could
mm,
buy their luxury product? Probably not a lot.
mm.
But if there might be someone with 20,000 followers that sells private jets, and they go, well, he's got a lot more actionable people. Those are the people that we're trying to
Yeah.
reach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't get obsessed with followers. Don't get obsessed with likes. Don't like followers mean next to nothing now.
Mm,
It's like, so what? I have 5,000 followers. If I post a bad video, I get 500 views. So not even
yeah.
like
Most of
a
them aren't seeing
tenth
it.
of my followers
Mm,
are even seeing my content.
mm,
So good content will perform well if you have no followers, and bad
mm,
content will do badly if you have a ton of followers.
mm,
And there's people out there with millions of followers getting 400 views a video now
mm,
because they just lost it. Which is as well to gamble because you can just become unpopular,
mm.
which, but that's a problem to solve once you've made it.
Yeah.
As
Well,
opposed
yeah,
to get out.
you've got to be popular first to get unpopular.
Yeah,
I think that kind of really sums it up. And I think it is, you say you've got to, I think for me, I think we're kind of coming to the same place. You've got to want to do it to do this. You've got to be prepared to put the work in. You've got to be prepared to accept the fact that it's going to take time. And you've got to be prepared to accept the fact that it's going to fail. Some
mhm,
things are going to land badly. As I said to you, I've, spent written posts that I've spent ages on. I really enjoyed writing the post. And I think it's something really, really important that I want to say, and I'll put it out there, and like two people have liked it, and it disappears without a trace. It's you have to kind of go, well, you know what? I'm not chasing the likes. I'm putting out the stuff that I want to put out, and eventually you start to build those connections with those people that want the stuff that you're putting out there. Because I say, I think you can also, I think it's losing this idea that you want to be some kind of social media influencer. You have to
yeah,
have that clear vision as to what you're trying to do with it. You're trying to build your audience to make sure that you are generating work and the work that you do that. I'm trying to build my connections to generate that kind of professional standing and sell the training work and bits and pieces I'm doing. You have to have that. I am doing it for this reason. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's
And for me,
have
that
that right.
reason is when that person, because like we sell very specific product, it is
Mm,
very difficult. Like a lot of people have very poor success with paid ads
mm,
because people do a lot of homework before purchasing from someone. And if you are a paid ad, someone might click on your website and then go click on seven other people's, and then that's just money down the drain.
mm,
But for me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be there when someone has that question
mm,
or is looking. So as long as I'm there or people know of me, which is rarer, but it's possible
mm.
that they go, oh well, I saw that. Or
Yeah,
if someone just Googles difference between a level 2 and level 3 survey and your video pops up, you're gonna be a pretty busy person.
yeah,
Um, and that's what I'm trying to get to in the long run. And
mm,
then back on that is, yes, they can be poor videos, but it all compounds on itself as well,
mm,
where every morning I'll wake up, I'll have at least 10 likes from something.
mm,
So it's nothing necessarily that I posted the day before, but it'll be 10 likes from videos all over the place
mm.
because they still show up, people still search things.
Yeah,
Um, and I definitely want more surveyors to post
mm,
content because I think as a profession overall, we are definitely underrepresented. And I would like to see different kind of corners of the profession
mm.
talk about things.
Yeah,
But I do understand that some of corners are just very technical and
yeah.
might not appeal as much as residential surveying.
But I mean, again, there's still a place for that deep technical stuff, and I think it has as much value. Just
Yeah.
it's understanding who that value is for.
Hmm.
Let's probably bring things to an end. So, where can people find you on TikTok? You're
Dan the Surveyor Man.
Dan the Surveyor Man. Okay, well, if you're watching this one, if you use, I have to say, I don't. I've never really looked at TikTok. I've perceived it as
Yep.
being for the younger generation.
Everyone can
But I
come to
don't
my
consider myself
comments and
old
tell me
yet.
how wrong I am about everything.
But I say, I thank you for speaking. I think it's yeah, it's a. They say both of us come from the same point. We want more surveyors doing this, more out there talking about what we do. I come from it as point of view as someone who is. I love what I do for a living. I'm probably not the same as you. That I like still being able to get out to properties, apart from when it's cold and raining.
In the
I
summer,
prefer
that's
it
what
more in
I
the
put my
sunny.
LinkedIn post today. Exactly. I
Yeah,
was
if
like,
it's yeah, I
stuff
saw
I'm
that
putting
one
over.
today. Yeah,
Yeah.
if it was warm and sunny all the time, I'd be more inclined to do it. But yeah, it is if it is the right thing for you, this process of talking, but also, you know, if you can force yourself to do it, keep doing it, learn from it, get better at it, because also it's not just the skill of, we're talking here today, not just the skill of producing a video, but it's the skill of interacting and putting across your ideas of what you want to say.
Exactly. Just communication. And it's a habit. If you build the habit, you'll keep doing it. It won't be that difficult. It's just building that habit to start
Mm,
off.
yeah.
Same with
Well,
everything.
thank you, Dan the Surveyor Man, on
Thank you.
TikTok. Thank you for joining me today. Excellent. Thank you very much. I say again, anybody's got any kind of questions, comments, thoughts, theories about social media, if you are really keen to get going with it and want just at least a little bit of a pep talk from either myself or Dan, do get in touch and we'll see what we can do to help you. Thank you very much.